Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another session of Ask the Doctor. I am Shamira Robinson with Grapevine Health. And if you've joined us before, you know that we are a health media company that is only concerned about making sure that you have information that you can relate to, that you can understand, and that you can trust. So, Ask the Doctor is just one of the ways in which we help to bring that information right to you in the comfort of your own home so that you can ask your real questions in real time and get real answers. Before we get started, you will notice a QR code in the corner of your screen. I know it's popping up somewhere. There it is. So take a moment. If you have your phone on you, just scan that QR code and it'll take you to a brief survey. And this survey is just to make sure that we're continuing to serve you and to bring programming that you enjoy, that feels good for you. So if you can, take a moment to do that. And while you're doing that, I want to introduce our guest for today. So her face might be familiar to some of you who've joined us before, but Alannah Gore is back with us. She is a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I am going to let her tell you about all the things she has going on.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you so much for having me back. Again, my name is Alannah Gore. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. I also have my master's in public health from the University of North Carolina. I'm completely passionate about food and nutrition, eating for health, eating for wellness. And I am a Southerner at heart. So I hail to you from Durham, North Carolina. So I love my Southern comfort foods. And I just want to help everyone learn how to make healthier choices. That's what I'm passionate about balance. And so I hope I can just answer you guys' questions. And it's so nice to meet everyone.
Yes, so here for the Southern Comfort. So today we're talking about healthy during the holidays. So if you have any questions related to being healthy, staying healthy during the holiday season, go to your chat box, type it in your chat box, and press enter. And that'll come to us live. And so I'll ask Elena and she'll give you her answer. But while we're gearing up with the questions, we hear healthy during the holidays. And I feel like for a lot of people, healthy eating automatically comes to mind. Like, okay, what am I supposed to be eating? But are there other things that people should be thinking about when it comes to staying healthy during the holidays?
Absolutely. So, health is about food, but health is also about balance overall. So, not just with your food, but with your life. And this includes stress, this includes wellness, this includes exercise. So, the one thing about the holiday season is that it's a season that usually disrupts our routines and our patterns across the board with work, with family, with home, travel. So, we can get really stressed out. So the tendency is to stress more, exercise less, and be busier and on the go. So it's important that we keep all of those things in balance and we think about each of those things, not just the food we're putting in our body, but other things that we're doing for ourselves, for our mental health, for our emotional health, and also to cope with stress.
I love that. It really is a full picture. But getting to that full picture, you mentioned mental health, emotional health, your physical health, what you're putting in your body, how often you're moving your body. So, how can people make healthy choices during the holidays or during the colder months in each of those buckets? I know you named a lot of buckets, but do you mind breaking down how people make healthy choices within those different buckets?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how can people make healthy choices during the holidays within those buckets? So, first, let's talk about nutrition. So, as far as food is concerned, we already know we want to aim for balance and we use the My Plate method. For those of you who are unfamiliar, that's a great way to keep that balance going. When we talk about stress, it's very important for us to think about ways that we can practice self care. Stress is inevitable, there's a lot going on. So, making sure that you're checking in with yourself, making sure that you're doing different things that actually give you joy, allow you to cope, allow you to de stress sometimes is really important. And you can't forget those things. Sometimes we get so busy and we forget that we can't help others until we help ourselves. So, keeping that stress minimal with different coping mechanisms is really important. Also, if you know anything about mindfulness, mindfulness is a great way to practice self-care as well as nutritional care and being healthy across the board. Because mindfulness is about being present, being intentional, and it's about listening to yourself, listening to your body, listening to your cues for eating, and a whole lot of different things. It's a huge topic, but it's really important to think about those things and be intentional about staying in the moment and enjoying what's going on.
I love that. And I'm sure we'll get into some tips for just general mindfulness and what that looks like and how we actually do that. Um, but before we jump there, we did have a question that somebody wants the answer to. And so they asked, or I guess they've shared, I always overdo it during big family meals. What can I do to get my portions down? And I know that's an area a lot of us probably struggle with when you're with your family, you're all together, it's feeling good, you're piling your plate up. How do we apply some of those mindfulness tips or any just tips to be more aware of how much we're actually putting on our plate?
Yes. So, how do we apply those tips and how are we more mindful about what we're putting on our plate, our portions? That's a great question. So, the first thing I will say is that the easiest thing to do is to pick a smaller plate. That's like the first thing I tell people, especially during the holidays. If there's more than one plate size and you have that option, pick a smaller plate. We are all tempted to fill up our plate no matter what. We're human. That's what looks good. We don't want to leave blank space on the plate. So if you can, try starting with a smaller plate and putting the things on there that you want the most, because with the smaller plate you may run out of room if you have a lot of options. So don't waste your space on things you don't really love. Go ahead and put those things that you love the most on a smaller plate. That can help with portions as well. If you're going to like a dinner party or you're attending a gathering rather than being the host, you can always eat a healthy snack before you go. Now, you want to indulge once you get there, but you don't want to overindulge. So just like we say, don't go to the grocery store hungry, I highly recommend that you don't go into dinner or into a party starving or famished. If we go in famished, we tend to overeat or do what we call binge eating. So it's a lot easier if you have a small snack to just kind of take the edge off, and then that can help you regulate your portion sizes as well. One of the last things I recommend is aiming for half a plate of vegetables. Vegetables are great in fiber, they're good for you, and a lot of times we have a lot of choices for those. So if you put half of your plate vegetables, it'll make you feel a little bit fuller, so then maybe you'll decrease the portions on other things.
Okay, so what I heard you say was smaller plate. If that's an option, then pick up that smaller plate and use that. I think that's a wonderful tip. Have a snack, which I also think is a good idea because I know, at least for my family, by the time dinner is done, it's about 7, 8, 9 o'clock. So waiting that long is not a good idea. And then the third thing about filling your plate with filling half that plate with vegetables. Now, which one of our vegetables count? Can I fill that half with collard greens? Is that good?
You can absolutely fill that plate with collard greens. So, can you fill it with any type of vegetable? Yes, ish. And so you may hear me say the term ish a lot because remember that the holidays are about enjoyment. So you don't want to aim for perfection. You just want to aim for something that's healthier or healthy ish. And so collard greens definitely count. And no one made a rule that you can't put meat or fat or pork or different things into vegetables because remember, you still want to enjoy them. So we know that we can add those things to vegetables. Collard greens count. We want to think of our non-starchy vegetables when we're thinking about a half plate vegetables. So starchy vegetables are corn, potatoes, green peas. Those don't really count as much as our vegetables as far as our half a plate. But everything else you can think of, mostly, especially those green leafies, things like broccoli, kale, collards. Collards are my favorite. Turnips. Yeah, I know for a holiday season. And no one does collards over the holidays like a good Southerner. So just want to put that out there. But yes.
I saw a comment come up. asking if French fries count, and I think that would fall in the starchy category. But I do love that. And if you have any thoughts to add there, we'd love to hear them.
Yes. So when I think of typical holiday season, I love, well, first of all, I love French fries. French fries are my weakness. They're my greatest thing. I love them. I can't turn down French fries. The holiday season is probably the only time I will turn down French fries because I want some of the other great goodness that I don't normally cook throughout the year or that my family may not cook throughout the year. So I actually do say, okay, maybe I only have like a half a portion of French fries a week during the holidays because I'm looking forward to all those other things that I don't always think of. And I feel like we get fries all the time. And so that's just a personal thing. But French fries do not count toward the half plate vegetables because they are potato based and potatoes are starchy vegetables.
That is good to know because I also have a weakness for fries. It looks like we have another question about desserts. Strategies for dessert. So, Laney, you gave us some really good tips when it comes to mealtime, those savory things. But the sweets table is always stacked. You have cakes, pies, cookies, cheesecake, all of it. So, what are strategies people can use for dessert?
So strategies that you can use for desserts are not always our favorite, right? Because we know that most of our desserts are very decadent. So most desserts are based in a combination of sugar, butter, or oil, and flour, which are all really, really high in calories or fat or things that we know tend to be not as great for our health. So again, when we're thinking desserts, we want to think healthy ish. So add whole fruits to your vegetable if you can. So instead of picking like a creamy pie that's going to have a lot of that fat in there, pick a fruit based pie, something that you can actually add whole fruits to. And then maybe even leave the skin on those fruits. So if it's blueberry, I know you have to cook it down a little bit. If it's strawberry, just making sure that you put them in there as whole as you can really help adding some of those nutrients that we get from fruits and vegetables. So that's a great way to still have your desserts. Think and ask yourself the question, which is okay if the answer is yes, but do you actually need the pie crust or the crust on the outside of your favorite desserts? Because what if you mix fruit with granola, or what if you mix it with something that isn't as high in calories? There's so many different ways you can think of your desserts, but just think about little ways to add in more fruits and vegetables and see if that can work. And also, think about if your favorite desserts, they're going to have this cream in there, maybe milk, maybe they have a yogurt in it. Go for lower fat or reduced fat products like dairy products that we use in a lot of our favorite desserts. That could be really helpful. So low fat cheese, reduced fat cheese, or low fat cream cheese, for those cheesecake people out there like this girl. So yes, absolutely. You can do a few tweaks to desserts, just adding a few more things like vegetables, fruits, whole fruits that can really help out a lot.
Wonderful. Okay, so I am going to bring us back to this collard green talk a little bit. So you mentioned it's okay to add meats or fats or some other things that you mentioned. So when it comes to our vegetables, does it matter how we're cooking them or what we're putting in them?
Ooh, I love this question. When it comes to our vegetables, does it matter what we're putting in them? Yes, it does. Absolutely. So, again, with the holiday season, we're thinking about these ways that we can cook things that satisfy our taste buds. But remember that if we cook collards, for example, and we add a little fat and we add a little pork to it or something like that, it is going to add fat to the collard greens. So, if someone else doesn't put fat in there, of course, they're going to have less fat when they eat the collard greens. Okay. So it matters, but in the grand scheme of things, if you don't eat the collards without the fat in there, right? So a lot of times if someone cooks a vegetable that we don't like or they don't cook it to our liking, we're less likely to eat it. So we're less likely to put it on half of our plate. So we want to cook things that we love. We want to cook things to the best of our ability to retain all the nutrients in there. But sometimes adding a little bit of meat or adding a little bit of fat is not the end of the world, especially during the holiday season, because it's healthy ish, not the perfect health and not the only way to cook collard greens, but it is healthy ish. So, yes, your veggies, you can add things. Go light on the cheese, the cream, go light on the butter. We don't want to add so much fat that we take away from the nutrients in our vegetables, but definitely go light definitely go light on those and enjoy with as much in there as you like.
I love this tagline of healthy ish because, right, it is the holidays and we want to enjoy. Food should be special and, you should feel good about it and not feel super guilty. And so, if you're getting to that point where you're feeling guilty about what you're having and you're no longer enjoying it, that might be a place to really think about. Okay, well, how can I be more graceful with myself and allow myself those moments to really enjoy this holiday time? It looks like we have a question popped up on the screen. So we have ambrosia fruit salad is said to have originated in Vermont around the late 19th century. However, it's a creamy fruit salad with marshmallows. Have you ever had it, Elena? Do you know about it? Any thoughts on that one?
So I do know about it, but no, I have never had it. So ambrosia fruit salad is a little creamy for me, and I am not a marshmallow fan. So creamy fruit salad with marshmallows, that's like the opposite of how I like my fruit and how I like my salads. So not a fan. However, a lot of people I know love it during the holidays. So again, just remember that marshmallow is going to have quite a bit of fat in there, quite a bit of sugar in there. There's already fruit in it, and fruit is naturally sweet, and we love fruits. So we just have to be careful with the amount of fruits and vegetables, or the amount of oils, fats, sweets, saturated fats, things like that in our desserts. So maybe we just have a smaller portion of it. But can you have it through the holidays? Absolutely. If that is your treat, that's what you love, definitely have as much of it as you can take. But remember that you're eating a lot more fat in there, a lot more sugar in there. So you have to take that into account when you're making those choices for yourself.
All right. So that was a nice little fun fact. Thank you for sharing and bringing to recipes. So there was someone else who asked the question, well, what if I don't want to change my food or my family recipes? Is there anything else that I can do to be healthy during this time?
So, one thing that I feel like you can, or other things that you can do to be healthy at this time or at the time of the holidays, if you don't want to change your family recipes, is always be open to adjusting or tweaking, but not completely changing. Because remember that these recipes are for flavor, they are passed down, they can be traditional, but sometimes they don't always keep health in mind. So let's say you're the person and you're cooking for your family, and you know that your family loves this recipe, but you know that they all kind of have similar conditions, or they all kind of want to be on a healthier journey. Then you can always just tweak it and adjust it just a little bit. You don't have to completely swap out things if you don't want to. For example, in a cake, a good swap could be applesauce for your oil and your butter and your sugar. And that sounds crazy, but it actually keeps the flavor and the moisture for cakes, and it reduces a lot of the fat. But a lot of people aren't willing to try that. So instead of that, whatever you're going to use in there as your sugar source or your fat source, go for a lower fat option, go for a lower calorie option, sweetener, in your, instead of using sugar. There's a lot of tweaks you can make. But if you're just dead set on not one adjustment, not one tweak, again, we're going to go back to eat smaller portions of it. You don't have to have a whole slice. You don't have to have a whole half a cake or a whole piece. You can always eat just a little bit, savor each bite, and then have it. And then you don't have to worry about adding too many calories just from one source throughout the holidays, such as a pie or a cake or a cookie.
All right. So if you do not want to mess with those family recipes, you want to keep them just the same. Sounds like Elena's saying one tip we can go with is watching those portions, just having a little bit less of it. And you started off giving some really good tips on how to do that. And one of those is using a smaller plate. So that's one way to help us have a little bit less, having a snack beforehand, and then seeing where you can add in those vegetables. I thought that was really great. And one other tip that came to mind, especially if you're hosting, you know how you lay everything out, you have your full spread there, and you use the big serving spoon so that people can get their food. Well, if you're trying to hold everyone accountable and help everyone else out, you can also use smaller serving spoons or smaller spoons. So when people are going to get their portions, everybody is automatically getting a little bit less. So that's something else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's something else to keep in mind. We've talked about a lot of really good things about foods during the holidays, and we had a really good question come up. So I'm going to toss it this way and see what you do with it. Um, but what are three staple items that we should pass on during the holiday, and three staple items that we should eat during the holiday?
Ooh, okay. So 3 staple items we should pass on for the holiday and 3 staple items we should eat for the holiday. That's the question, correct? Okay, perfect. So I would say passing on an item for the holiday is a very individual choice. So when we're thinking about being healthier or making healthiest choices, we want to think about what we can add rather than what we take away. So during the holidays, if you go and focused on what you should deprive yourself of, it's not always the best mindset going in because we really want you to enjoy those foods. All foods can be healthy for you. They can be good and nutritious for you, but usually it's about amount. We're talking about items during the holidays. So what you want to pass on actually depends on you, and it depends on your personal wellness goals and your journey. For example, if you have hypertension and you're focusing on lower salt, then you want to pick or you may choose to pass on very, very salty items. The same is true as if you're a diabetic or a pre-diabetic. You may want to pass on extremely sweet items just to help with your blood sugar control. So each of those 3 items is going to depend on you. Now, the general census would be you want to pass on items that you don't absolutely have to have. So if you're thinking about it and you see it there and you know it's what we call kind of decadent, like it's fried, cheesy, creamy, you know it's going to have a lot of sugar, fat, or salt in it, and you're just not dying to have it, I recommend maybe thinking about passing on those, passing on the things that we know add a lot of those nutrients we don't need a lot of, but we're not just dying to have it. It's not a must for the holidays. So you pick those 3 items. I don't know what everyone's is. So I have to have potato salad. So I'm not passing on my potato salad. But for you, it may be something else. You may have a sweet tooth. So you may have to have maybe a couple of sweets, but maybe you don't want too many of the really fattening, savory things. So those 3 would be up to you. I can't answer that for each person there, but think about your wellness goals. Think about the things that you need. But I can give you 3 things that I definitely think you should try to consume and have over the holidays. That one's a lot easier for me because as a nutritionist, I want you to add things that add nutrients to your body, especially those that you may not get enough of. So the first one is going to be nuts and seeds. So think about recipes that you can add nuts and seeds to. Think about if you just need a snack in between meals. This is probably the unsung hero of nutrition. They're high in fat, but they're high in the good fats, the healthy fats that we need. They can be a good source of protein. They can be a good source of fiber, so they're very filling. And they have all these vitamins and minerals in it that we need. So definitely see if there's some way you can add some nuts in there, some seeds like shaved almonds or walnuts or pecans. So you definitely want to do that. A second one would be something with whole grains in it. So choose brown over white. So when we're talking about our pastas, our breads, our oats, choose those brown ones. Those brown ones, again, are going to have more fiber in them. So if you've noticed, the key is to add fiber. That is what we want to do throughout the holidays. Different foods with fiber in it. Fiber is amazing to our bodies, and it's especially helpful during the holidays to clean us out, get us pretty clear, and also just help with those chronic conditions such as high cholesterol, high blood pressure. So I definitely recommend those two: whole grains, nuts, and seeds. And then the last one would just be whatever your favorite is. Do not skip out on your favorite food, your absolute favorite food. At least have that one as well.
I love it. And I'm cracking up at the chat here. We see Janelle is saying, "Oh, I don't care what we do, but mac and cheese is going on my plate. I can eat a little bit less, but it's going to be there." So I love those tips about what to add, what to make sure you have, thinking about nuts and seeds, whole grains, and then your favorite, but all about adding fiber. And as you mentioned, it's to help keep things flowing and to help keep us regular. I don't know if anyone else has felt this, but during the holidays where, you're eating a lot of those favorite foods and then you start to feel a little stuck, things not moving like they need to be moving. And so fiber is what really helps to make sure that we're keeping our system regular and we're going and things are passing through. So I love that tip about finding ways to add fiber. I know we also had a question pop up in the chat about turkey. So, Elena, what are your thoughts? The healthiest way to cook turkey or prepare turkey?
So the healthiest way to cook or prepare turkey, that is a great question. Or what is the healthiest way to do that? So it would go the same for the holidays, would be um, every other day too, when we think about how to prepare our proteins and meats. So we already know that frying a turkey, no matter how delicious, is probably not going to be our healthiest version of turkey. And again, if it's your absolute favorite, add it on there. But we're going to definitely go with baking your turkey, putting it in the oven, not adding a lot of fats and oils to it. So not too much butter, not something like flour and oil and deep frying it. It's usually going to be baked. I do have a friend who they grill their turkey every Thanksgiving and every Christmas. She says she's never had it any other way. They just throw their turkey on the grill. Now, I personally have never done that, but that sounds amazing to me. So grilling could also be a great option. But most people probably baking it in the oven, putting a lot of herbs and spices on it, giving it that flavor with other things besides butter, oils, fats. Lots of different recipes, lots of different spices you can throw on it. So there's a lot of options there, but probably opt out of frying or frying your turkey. So
So I know you see this comment popping up, but baking is the least flavorful. Grilled, smoked, and fried are amazing. And I am not going to disagree, Sean. I definitely think that is true. But Elena, I think you gave really good tips on ways to add flavor. Because I know we've all had turkeys that have gone in the oven and they've been like a little dry or flavorless, but there are other things like adding adding some of those herbs and other things to bring some flavor there. I know we also had a question about glazed ham and someone wondering if glazing your ham or having glazed ham is unhealthy. So what are your thoughts on that, Elena?
So I do want to go on record and say that the question to me before was, what was the healthiest way to have your turkey, not the most flavorful way. So I don't personally bake my turkey either. So I wanted to go on record with that. But are glazed ham, or is glazing your ham unhealthy? So again, this is going to go back to what we're adding to our food, right? You have this ham, which is naturally high in fat. It also has great protein in it, but we know ham can be one of our fattier or can be higher in saturated fat. It tends to also be a little saltier as a meat. And so because of that, when we add a glaze, that glaze is usually very, very sweet. So it's just sugar heated up with a few added flavors. So if you are a diabetic or pre-diabetic or a person who is watching their sugar intake, then maybe glazing your ham is not the best move for you for the holiday. Maybe actually not glazing it makes it a little bit healthier for you, depending on, your own health conditions, that of your family, or whatever your wellness goals are. So again, remember, healthy and unhealthy can be pretty relative to whatever you have going on, but I love me a honey baked glazed ham. So yes, you can enjoy it. It can be healthy for your soul and your spirit to have a glazed ham.
I love that. And by the finger point, you know that I agree with all of those points. And really just going back again to that tagline of healthy ish. Holidays, we are meant to enjoy them and find things that we can celebrate and come together around. So if that glazed ham is your favorite and you know for sure that's the one thing that's going to be on your plate, have it, enjoy it. Do not feel bad about that, but then just be mindful of what else is going on your plate, especially if sugar is something that you are trying to do a little bit less of.
Absolutely.
And I know we talked about food a lot. We talked about meats and sides and desserts. But what we have not gotten to is alcohol. And I know that's another thing that a lot of people tend to have more of when we're together or with people or when it gets colder and you're inside more. So we have a question about how much alcohol is too much.
How much alcohol is too much? All right, for this question. Well, if you are drunk and can't drive home, it was too don't drive, don't drink and drive. Let's say that first, safety first. But as far as nutritionally and calorically, remember that alcohol, and it, for those of you who don't know, alcohol is very calorically dense. It's actually just made of sugar and starch, and it's just been fermented. And so it is full of calories for us. And so when we consume alcohol, we are consuming calories. So that is what's behind people getting a quote unquote beer belly. If you've heard that, it's because drinking a lot of alcohol can lead to weight gain. So we want to be careful with alcohol if our goal is weight loss or maintaining weight. So too much, very relative. I would say that a recommendation from a nutritionist, if you're trying to watch your calorie intake, would to be to limit the amount of drinks that you have at one particular event. I would go in with a set number and try to stick to that number, maybe 1 to 2 drinks. The reason being is that you're going to get a lot of calories from the food that you have there, and it's delicious food and you're going to love it, but you don't want to add those unnecessary calories from liquids or beverages, and alcohol has such a high caloric density. So maybe limit it to 1 to 2 drinks. If you want a little bit more, there's also a few things you can do so it's not too much. Do what we call a water sandwich. And so you have a glass of water, then you have an alcoholic beverage, then you have another glass of water. That way that helps you with hydration. So you're not getting, or you're not feeling as drunk, you're not getting dehydrated, which happens when we have a lot of alcoholic beverages. And you can also, if you're worried about, not being able to limit yourself to 1 or 2 drinks because it's your favorite cocktail or, it's your favorite beer, try drinking it with your meal. That way you're getting full and you'll probably drink less of it if you're drinking it with your meal. So if you're going to have that alcoholic beverage and you want to kind of slow it down or limit it, those are a few ways to do it, but too much is definitely relative.
I see the comment popping up about adding sparkling water to the drinks. I think that's a really good tip. What do you think about that, Alannah?
Adding sparkling water to the alcoholic beverage, was that
That's what I'm assuming.
okay? That is a new one for me, actually, but that is a great tip. I think sparkling, it would have to be maybe a wine in order for maybe a sparkling, for me to conceptualize it personally. But I can't imagine adding like a sparkling water to a beer. You know,
Well, some people do their spirits with like a vodka tonic or a tequila soda. So
mm,
in my mind, I'm imagining the same sort of concept. So like if you're mixing
yes.
a drink, instead of using juice or using soda, adding a sparkling water or like a club soda might be something that will help save on some of those calories that you were talking about.
absolutely totally understand if we're talking about liquor. Yes. So if we're making a cocktail, I am here for it. Remember that you can add actual fruit in there if you want. There's so many things that you can do to add to an alcoholic beverage to reduce the calories. You can buy the light version of things. You can add that tonic water, sparkling water. You can do so many things when you're doing like a liquor mixed drink or a cocktail. I think my head was like, wine with more sparkling? No, but you're right. Whatever your taste buds will allow, whatever your taste buds like, anytime you add water, you're doing an amazing thing. So if you like to add water to your drink, that's great. Just make sure that you're still getting the right amount of water outside of the alcoholic beverage. So make sure you're still drinking flat water, sparkling water separately, just to help with that hydration. But you're absolutely right. That can cut the calories from the mixers, from the juices that we add to liquor and cocktails. Subbing that out for sparkling water could be a great option.
And I love the tip about a water sandwich to help stay hydrated and maybe not feel as groggy the next day. So, water drink, water drink.
Yes.
So we do have a question about alternatives. So someone in the chat is asking, what are some alternatives that they could use to a turkey? Because turkeys are really big, and if you have a smaller family, it might just be too much meat, too much there, too much protein. So are there any other things that come to mind as good substitutes or just alternatives to a big turkey?
Yes. So, what are some alternatives to a turkey or a large turkey? So, remember that this comes from tradition. This is very social for us to choose turkey, but you could choose chicken, you could choose fish, you could choose any other protein source that you know, or even choose a non traditional dish. You can pick a lasagna, you can pick almost any food you can think of. We do turkey because of, again, this kind of Thanksgiving or this kind of Christmas thing that's come up socially as a tradition in America. But there are a lot of cultures who don't have turkey on Thanksgiving or Christmas. Lots of cultures that have alternatives there. So fish is a big one. Pasta is a big one, big pasta dishes. And of course, lasagna. And that can be for any occasion. But think about other lean protein sources if we're talking about being healthier. So pick your fishes, your chickens, those things those fatty, you can pick a fatty fish that'll have those omega-3s in there. Duck, I saw pop up. So yeah, duck is a great alternative. So just think about what you and your family like or want. You don't have to do turkey, especially not for nutritional purposes. So go non-traditional. Pick what you want. Pick your sides. Pick your main dish. It can be anything. You can even go vegan or vegetarian with like a bean dish or tofu. There's so many things you could pick. So yes.
I love it. And I saw rotisserie chicken in there. I saw Cornish hen pop up. I know when I think it's just my family tradition, especially for New Year's, Cornish hens, of course, collard greens, black eyed peas, all of those things have to be on the plate. But thinking about bringing families together, someone was saying that when you're hosting or having all your family together, it's a lot of work. And sometimes it could be more stressful than it can be fun as you're getting ready for everything, making sure you have everything prepared, making sure that everybody's going to get there. And so, what would you say to people who are doing hosting and they find themselves getting worked up, having some anxiety, getting stressed about it? How can they manage some of that stress so they can enjoy the moment a little bit more?
Right. So if you're hosting meals for a family and you're getting stressed, what are ways that you can reduce that stress during the holidays? Well, the first thing I'm going to say is this acronym that they say in design, which is KISS, KISS, which is keep it simple sunshine, except for they say another word at the end, but we're going to say sunshine. All right. Keep it simple. Remember that the holidays are about the company and the family and the gathering and the festivities. And so you don't want to complicate it for yourself, and you definitely don't want to complicate it for your guests and your family. So keep it as simple as you can. Another tip would be to take the time on the front end of planning to host and plan out your entire menu and your entire list that you need to make everything happen. So that's everything from cookware to food to seating to utensils, everything you can think of. And it's a little time consuming in the beginning, but you will love yourself on the back end. The stress that you can take out just from knowing everything that you need. Because when you write that list and you write that menu, and try to stick to it, you can figure out what you need to buy. You can figure out what you need to borrow. You can go up to your storage or your attic and see if there's some things that you need to get out of there. But writing it out can be very, very important, and planning it out can be very, very important for reducing stress at the end, or once the event comes. Because once your family gets there, you want to play, you want to talk, you want to do all these things. You don't want the stress to hit you then. And the last thing I'll say is please let other people contribute when you're hosting. Do not feel obligated to do everything. You don't have to be the cook, the cleaner, the everything. It can be potluck. Potluck is amazing. You can diversify the dishes. People can bring something, try something new. You can even do BYOB, which is bring your own beverage. That can help reduce the cost and the stress. And you can ask people for their help. Like if your cousin is an amateur DJ, then have him do the music for your event, or have someone that lives up the street, like a neighbor, bring some extra chairs or some dishes. So let your guests and your family help by bringing things. So don't feel like you have to be a hero and do it all yourself.
That is it. Do not feel like you have to be a hero and do it all. Asking for help, as hard as it can be, is one really good way to make sure that you're not piling too much on and you're not getting too stressed out. So, thank you for sharing all of those. I'm sure they'll come in handy for a lot of people listening. I know we also had a question pop up about peach cobbler. So we've talked some about alternatives. Do you have anything in mind if people are looking to make peach cobbler a little bit healthier?
Can can you make peach cobbler a little bit healthier? The answer is yes. And I make this face because I'm just not sure it's something you should do. Okay. Peach cobbler is peach cobbler. But but yes. So when you're thinking about these things, when you're using peaches, what is the source of your peaches? Were they fresh peaches that you made, chopped up, cut? Were they canned? If you use canned peaches, were they in syrup, light syrup? Were they in water, 100% juice? So you want to make sure that you are sourcing the things that you have and seeing if you can put less fat, less sugar, less added sugar, less, saturated fats in there. So for example, using peaches that are in water or in 100% juice or fresh peaches can be really helpful to reducing that added sugar from the syrup if it were canned and in syrup or light syrup. When you think about the crust of the cobbler, or I think it's still considered crust, you can substitute that for something that is a little lighter, not as dense. People do kind of like a biscuit type peach cobbler where it's a little lighter and fluffier, the crust part of it. So that can also reduce the fat and the extra oils in there. So there are ways to do it. But maybe that's one of those things that you cook and you just get a smaller portion of. And you can look up recipes to do that, to have substitutes to be a little bit lower calorie, a little bit lower fat, maybe a little bit lower sugar. But, think about that one really hard.
I am with you. There are some things that just should not be touched, in my opinion. And peach cobbler is hands down one of those things. If I'm going to have it, I'll just have my small little portion on my small little plate and be happy about it. But thank you for giving us those tips, because there are people who do want to enjoy it, but they want to enjoy it in a different way. And I think that's perfectly reasonable as well. And if we circle back to the comment about hosting in stress, I got a chance to look at some of the comments rolling in, and people had really good suggestions as well. So if you are hosting and you find yourself tending to be stressed or worked up during the holidays, Then music, listening to music as you're getting prepared or as family is coming, that could be one way to kind of soothe yourself. And another comment that came in that I really appreciated was writing out your rules. So if you have your rules set, like the ground rules, the house rules, you have them set, you could print them out, put them on the door. So when people get there, everybody knows how it's going to go down. Now,
Yeah.
that won't stop your family from potentially getting these jokes off and clowning you, but everybody knows what you need to feel comfortable and not stressed in your space. And I think that's important as well.
Yes, absolutely. And just to add to that, also when you're with your family, you want to focus on the fun that you're going to have with them. Maybe having activities and making that the focus of you guys being together. So maybe you guys play a game together, or maybe there's something you guys are going to do. Like I know at family reunions, we used to have fashion shows. We used to have, yeah, like kind of karaoke. Before karaoke, it was more like a talent show for the kids. You can have kid activities. A lot of times, the more entertained your guests are, the less they tend to get on your nerves. Like that's got to be science, right? I'm pretty sure that's science. But
It's
but
got to
definitely
be.
focus on the fun and the activities and the fellowship with your family and friends when you're there. Stress other people out. So that's all.
That is key. Love the thought of figuring out games, whether it's karaoke, board games. My family does this thing called Name That Tune or That Song, where we'll play like a snippet of a song and then everybody's trying to guess what song it is. So there are a ton of things just to stay active, but also thinking about movement. So I think it'd be great if we could move more as families, but it's cold outside. And I know a lot of people, they kind of get a little bit more stagnant when it's cold outside. You don't want to go out, you don't want to walk, you just kind of want to stay in your heat. What are some ways during the holidays that people can be active and move their bodies even though it's cold outside?
So I love this question. So what are ways to be more active with your family during the holidays, even when it's cold outside? So one of the most important things about being healthier during the holidays is movement. So we talked a lot about food and calories and reducing it, but we know that weight management and health sometimes can be based on putting calories in and also burning calories off. So movement, when you put all that food in, it's okay to love it, but we want to make sure that we're moving and every bit counts. So the number one thing that came to my head when you said it was a dance party. That was the first thing. Someone said throw on some music while you're hosting and while you're planning and getting prepared. I say keep that music on and dance with everyone. You could do a TikTok challenge there, because then that way you've got to teach people how to do the moves and then record it. And then if you got it wrong, you got to re-record it. There's so much moving there. You can learn a new dance, teach a new dance. You can also think about going outside briefly in the cold with your family. So maybe a quick walk, get fresh air, be in the snow or the cold, take in some deep breaths and then come back in. You can think about yoga or stretching. There's a lot of apps that you can put on your TV or on your phone. You can teach people about like yoga and just like meditation and different things, but stretching out those muscles, walking up and down the steps between, while the football game's going on, between during commercials or between your favorite shows or movies. So there's so much you can do. Just think about what your family likes and what would be good for you guys, or think about teaching them something new or just something that will let you guys have fun. But you want to focus on movement and as much as full body movement as you can. So when you think of dancing, I think about I move my shoulders, my arms, my legs. Like there's a whole lot of whole body movement. So see if you can think of an activity that could do that indoors or outdoors.
Yes, dance party, all for that suggestion. Even the getting everybody together to take a walk, I will say something. You will probably get your blood pumping because you'll be trying to get in and out as quick as possible. Soul Train line, another suggestion that came up. I
Oh
love.
yeah.
Oh, and this tip, having your family help you do the cleanup afterwards can also count as exercise. And cleaning up definitely means getting your body moving. So I think that's a great solution to getting active and for keeping your own stress down because it's less for you to have to worry about in that cleanup process.
Absolutely.
I love it. Okay. Well, I know we are getting close to the end of the hour, but we had a tweet that rolled in. So we're going to put that tweet up on the screen, Alannah, and I want you to read it and then give us your thoughts on it.
Alrighty. This tweet says from Deck the Halls is how can I deal with my diabetes during the holiday season? Like I need my pie, but I don't want to die. I'm sorry. So understandable. I understand you need your pie. Diabetes is a really, really tricky condition during the holidays when it comes to intake and food, because of course we know that those carbohydrates are everywhere, and excessive carbohydrates during this time can cause a spike in blood sugar, and there's a lot of things there. So although we don't want to change our peach cobbler and we don't usually want to change our pie recipes, it's important that we think about ways to either add to our pie or either swap out certain ingredients in our pie that can maybe help with this blood sugar control. So maybe making things a little less sweet, making things have a few fewer carbohydrates in them, reducing some of that fat in there can be really helpful. And those substitutes can include, again, a lower fat oil or using a butter substitute. It could be another sweetener other than sugar. So there's so many things we can do. But remember, you can still have your pie as a diabetic. You just have to be a little careful about the amount again. So going back to that mindfulness we talked about, when you have a food that you love and you're saying, I love this food, but I don't want to die. So I know it does not impact my health positively. You want to savor each bite that you have of that food that you love, knowing that there's a lot of sugar in it, there's a lot of carbs, but you want to eat it slow. You get yourself a small piece and you eat it slow and you savor each morsel, okay? All the way down to the last bite. And that can be really helpful, in having a small portion, but also keeping your blood sugar stable. So my overall answer to the question is, yes, you can use substitutes and swaps for the ingredients in your pie, things that like that if you have diabetes, but also you just want to focus on portion control. And lastly, increase your vegetable intake throughout the rest of the meal. That way you're getting all these vitamins and nutrients, and then by the time you get to your pie, maybe having a smaller portion doesn't feel as bad.
I love it. And I love the air quotations around bad because it really is just about deciding what is the best way for you to find and navigate your way through the holidays. And the right answer is going to be different for everyone, whether it is using artificial sweetener or a sugar substitute, or it's having a smaller portion. And I think something that's also helpful to keep in mind is that you make these things, and yes, you might have this big dinner or gathering or something, and so you want to have a big piece of pie then, but you can save it. You can have a little bit now and then say, you know what, I'm gonna cut this in half. I'm gonna have the other half tomorrow. Or, I'm gonna cut it in thirds, and then over the next week or over the next 3 days, then I'm just gonna consistently have a little bit. So it's not necessarily going anywhere. It's not necessarily gonna run from you. So there are ways that you can still enjoy it, but just take your time. And as Alannah has been saying, just being mindful about it. Um, all right, to our last question. This has been so great, Alannah. Thank you so much for joining. I want you to sum up all this practical goodness that you've given us into like a package that we can take with us. So, what are your top 3 tips for keeping health in mind during this holiday season?
So what are my top tips for keeping health in mind during this holiday season? So my first tip would be aim for balance. Okay. Balance on your plate. You can use My Plate to help you out with that. It's very easy visual, a lot easier to do than, counting calories for a lot of people. So if you think, me saying My Plate sounds hard, it's not. But aim for balance when you're doing things. If you feel off balance, do something to kind of recenter yourself. So if that's self-care, if that's something else, aim for balance across the board. All right. Coping with stress, different things. My second tip would be to move your body. Okay. Be as active as you can be, wherever you can get it. If you're working out for most of the week and then you don't exercise, during the Christmas holiday, that's okay. But move your body as much as you can. Involve your family, involve your friends, dance at the party, do different things that allows you to move your body as much as you can. Whatever that means to you, whatever's comfortable for you, just remember every little bit counts. The 5 minutes you do, the 10 minutes you do, the hour and a half you do, whatever it is, it all counts. And the third tip I would have would be to really enjoy your holiday. Enjoy it. Don't overthink it. Get outside. You can aim for a healthy lifestyle. You can do all of these things. But remember, the holiday season is short and we want you to enjoy, and that a healthy lifestyle is longer and longer term. So maybe you'll get back on track after the holiday season. But if you're overthinking it during the season and you're not enjoying it, that's the opposite of what we want too. Okay, so enjoy your holiday. Aim for healthier choices, aim for healthy-ish choices, tweak a little bit, adjust a little bit, but make sure you're still able to enjoy your holiday.
So beautifully said. And just really quick, you mentioned during the balance portion about My Plate, and that's a strategy to balance your plate. Can you just break that down for us one more time? If someone is like, okay, I want to balance my plate, but I don't really know where to start, what would you say to them?
Absolutely. So, how do you balance your plate? What is My Plate? So, My Plate is visual. You can actually look up online. It says that half your plate should be fruits and vegetables. A quarter of your plate should be grains, preferably whole grains, and another quarter of your plate should be protein, and preferably lean protein sources. So when we're thinking about our plates and portion sizes, people, think about counting carbs. They think about things that feel overwhelming. Well, this is when you're making your plate for the holidays. So when you have your blank plate and you have all these options, you control where you put it on your plate. So put half of your plate the fruits and vegetables that are available to you. Most of the time during the holidays, that's mostly going to be vegetables on that plate. But you may have a nice salad. You may have fruit in the salad. You may have a side of fruit. So aim for half a plate, fruits and vegetables. Put your grains. So this is going to include your pastas, your rice, and this is where our mac and cheese is going to go as well. For those of you who do our potato salad, even though it's a potato, we're going to do a quarter plate, and then the last quarter of the plate is going to be that protein. So whatever your family decided to make as the protein source, it could be your ham, your turkey, your tofu, your chicken, your rotisserie chicken, or your Cornish hen. So whatever that is, make that a quarter of the plate. And so that makes a balanced My Plate, and that helps with portion sizing and nutrient intake. And remember, you can always get seconds later. So don't feel like if you balance your plate, you won't get all the things that you want. Just start there, and then that can help you balance as you continue to eat.
I love that so much, Alannah. So, for us to keep in mind as we are continuing through this holiday season, finding ways to one, balance our plates, two, get our bodies moving, and three, just enjoy the holidays and focusing on making healthier choices or healthy ish choices, but either way, making sure that we are still enjoying. Thank you so much for those tips. We appreciate you joining us today. And I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who attended and participated. We had some great comments and suggestions coming through the chat. And as you know, this is only one of many of our Ask the Doctor sessions. So please follow, subscribe, connect with us on social media so you can stay up to date on all the things that we have going on. You can follow us on social media at Grapevine Health, or you can visit our website, grapevinehealth.com. Special thanks to Fairfax County Health Department and the entire Stronger Partnership, Stronger Community Initiative for supporting today's event. And don't forget QR code. We're going to pop it back up there one more time. So if you do have a moment, please complete that survey just so we can continue to bring you wonderful events like this one. Thank you again, Alannah, for all of your wonderful knowledge and wisdom when it comes to staying healthy and happy during the holidays. And thanks to everyone for joining. Signing off from Grapevine Health.